Hey, welcome back, Faithful Politics listeners and viewers. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel, I am your political host, Will Wright, and I'm joined by your faithful host, Pastor Josh Bertram. What's going on, Josh?
Yo, what's going on, Will? Doing fine.
And we are joined this week by Aubrie Howell. Did I say that right?
Yes.
And Kathleen Rawlinson. And they are the host of the Christian and The Atheist podcast. They are a dynamic duo, and I just have to say I really appreciate what you guys are doing over there, you know, kind of pushing the limits of tolerance for people that would normally not agree with one another, kind of like Josh and I.
Right.
And, you know, what's different is you guys are friends where Josh and I are not friends. So... Okay. Yeah, so maybe you can start us off by telling us a little bit about yourselves and the podcast and everything else that you're doing over there.
Sure. You want to start?
Yeah. So obviously I'm Kathleen. This is Aubrie. We are real life friends. I'm an atheist, ex-Mormon atheist, and she is a Christian. And we decided to start this show just basically to show that, you know, you can find common ground with people that you disagree with on topics, as long as you come at each other with respect and love and willingness to have an open heart and open mind. It's not that hard to look over disagreements and be friends anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like, so her atheism doesn't offend my Christianity.
Yes.
And my Christianity doesn't offend her atheism. We make space for each other, and that's important, because I don't think you can put a certain type of Christian or a certain type of atheist in the same room and expect the same outcome.
Right.
So I do think that we do have a lot of common ground on belief systems that aren't Christian and atheist based, and that helps a lot.
Yeah. We have a lot of similarities. Personality wise, family wise, our viewpoints on a lot of things line up pretty well. But there are some things that obviously we disagree on, and we just gotta make it work.
That's really cool. So like, why did you guys choose to start a podcast?
I was completely like, who is this person and why is she who she is? How do you go from being a Christian and a faithful Christian, and she really was. And I don't want to tell her story, but that part is very important. She's a faithful Christian, and now she is so far from Christianity, you can't, it's far out. And so I was like, how the heck does someone go from point A to point B? And so we got to talking, and I realized what I envisioned as an atheist and what she is as an atheist is completely opposite. And I wanted to showcase that. And I also have just a freaking good time with her. So I was like, why not spend more time together and make you my best friend, and we're going to do this crazy thing. Plus we're in a country that's this was right around 2020, right after 2020. And I was like, we need to show tolerance in a really diverse or diversive, is that the right word? Divisive, sorry.
Divisive,
divisive,
tomato.
world. And that was something that I was interested in. I was always wanting to do something along these lines, but I didn't know what that looked like. And to me, as a Christian, I think God threw this in front of me, and I was like, what do you think about this? And then I was like, hey, Kathleen, me and God were talking, and she's like, cool, whatever.
She's like, God's not real, right?
Yeah. But yeah,
that's awesome.
So
you're Kathleen, you were Mormon, correct?
I was.
Okay.
I was born into the Mormon faith. I grew up and I spent about 30 years as a very devout, faithful, I did all of it Mormon.
Okay.
There's nothing that Mormonism entails that I didn't do.
Nice.
Basically.
Except no, never mind. I'm not going to say that. I was going to say something really offensive, but I stopped.
You're not going to offend me.
I stopped.
I want to know.
Yeah.
Except polygamy, right?
No, that one I didn't do. Although Mormons do believe that in the next life, when I die, my husband will get to take on more wives. So yeah,
but you won't.
I did.
Get to take on more husbands.
No, because I'm a lady. No.
So you just get the privilege to be married to your husband.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you going to be married to him in the afterlife or someone else?
Yeah, according to Mormonism, yeah.
Then where do the other wives come from? That's what I'm wondering. Is it kind of like in the Bible? Remember that weird story in the Bible when the Benjamites, like, they did this terrible thing, and then all of them, like, they went in, they did all this war, and then they said, oh man, we killed all the males, so they need to go steal all these girls for their brides. Do you remember that story? It's one of the best ones in the Bible. It's awesome.
Oh, there's a lot of fun ones in the Old Testament.
Yeah, it's real fun. So
that's a weird
what was
one.
it like to grow up as a Mormon? What, kind of help us understand, because a lot of people hear Mormon, they're just Christians. But that doesn't seem to be true exactly. What do Mormons believe, and why did you leave it? Most importantly, why did you leave it?
So Mormonism is a subset of Christianity. It's an American-based religion. It is worldwide. However, there are members all over the world. But it is a subset of Christianity. There is, they read the Bible. They believe in Jesus and God, and they believe in the atonement story where Jesus was on the cross and he died and then he came back to life to save everyone of their sins. This is all very much taught in Mormonism. A lot of people will say, oh, Mormons aren't Christian, and Mormons will take great offense to that because they do very much view themselves as Christians. However, they add a little extra sauce to the mix. They have extra scripture and they have extra beliefs that come in outside of basic Christianity that you're going to find, in your hometown. They have the Book of Mormon, which is an extra set of scripture. They believe that after the main thing that sets them apart from regular Christians is, how, in the Bible, Moses, he talks to God, the burning bush, and he speaks face to face with God, right? And the prophets of the Old Testament, that's a fairly common thread. Mormons believe that their prophet today is still doing that. He picks up his phone and calls God and says, hey, what's up? And so that is a big thing. They fully believe that. And then on top of that, there's also a lot of the differences that Mormons have are based on that mindset that a prophet has said, oh, hey, I got a new revelation. We got to implement this starting now. And then there is the other difference, I think a big difference that sets them apart is that they believe that after Jesus died on the cross, he came to the Americas. He came to North America and he visited. You see Aubrey's face? It's a silly story. But he came to America and he visited the people here and set up basically a set of 12 apostles, and the whole thing that he did in the New Testament, he did it here as well, and then went away again. But so that's the main difference. There's a lot of little things that come into the day-to-day stuff. Mormons don't drink coffee, they don't drink alcohol. There's a lot of clothing restrictions for Mormons. There's, I'm sure, I don't know how well versed you are in Mormonism.
Not super well versed. Aren't. I mean, I haven't done a lot of study in Mormonism.
Yeah. There's a lot of, funny, you brought up the polygamy. That is obviously a big part of it that happened in the past. And the church has since said, oh, we don't do that anymore, kind of, but mostly, but not really, but don't talk about it. And, there's little things that people always, when they find out you are a Mormon or were a Mormon specifically, they say, oh, tell me about the underwear. Oh, tell me about this. Tell me about that. And so I do get, it's really
Is there Mormon underwear?
Oh, there's Mormon underwear.
We have an episode on it.
What?
Oh,
get out of here.
Get ready.
Okay. Do a tangent and just tell us about Mormon.
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, tell us, please.
Okay. we have a ton of episodes talking about this because it's so involved and it's so confusing, especially if you don't know where all this info is coming from. But Mormons who have gone through the Mormon temple, which is a whole other thing, get a specific set of underwear, like long johns, kind of. They go down to the knee, and it's a 2-piece set. It's shorts and a top, and it's knee length. It covers your shoulders. It comes up high. What I'm wearing right now would not work with Mormon underwear. That's bad.
Oy.
And so, and they wear them all the time, 24/7. The only time they're not wearing them is if they are, say, in the shower, in a swimming pool. You know, times when you wouldn't wear underwear is when they're not wearing them. Mm-hmm. Yep.
OMG, that is frightening. And just for those that are listening, Aubree's showing us a picture of what the Mormon underwear looks like, and I can't even.
Kind of fashionable. They come in like couple sales and stuff like that, or I guess you don't sell those.
Oh no, there's no sales.
You're not selling.
No.
There's not there's got to be like a black market underwear, like black market.
Oh, I'm sure there are. Yeah.
You know, they trim a little down, and so that's illegal, and so
yeah,
you can't cut them. They're sacred.
They believe that they are sacred. They have special meaning. You've essentially made a covenant with God to his face that you will wear these all the time. And if you take them off, you're breaking a covenant with God. It's a big deal. So I wore those for 10 years.
Wow. So I mean, but what's the purpose? I mean, yeah.
That's a question that gets asked
Chastity?
In regards to Mormonism a lot. Partially, the purpose doesn't always exist in my experience. It is some parts chastity, some parts just a daily reminder of how you're supposed to be living your life. Some parts blind obedience. Do what I say because I am God and you're supposed to, and that's it. And there isn't always a reason. And so a lot of times in Mormonism, you know, you have these laws or these rules. For example, not drinking coffee. Nobody really knows why. There's no reasoning why. It's not the caffeine because they're allowed to have, you know, Pepsi. It's not the fact that it's hot because then they would be allowed to have cold coffee, but they're not allowed to have cold coffee. But they also can't have tea, but they can have herbal tea, but not there's no reasoning, and it doesn't make sense. And it boils down to because the church said so, because that's it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And on the garments are different symbols to remind you of your covenant to God. And that is just something to be blind obedience. God said to do this, so I'm going to do it. And only those that go to the temple are allowed to wear them.
Yes.
I've had a friend who was, I'm going to put quotations, Mormon. She thought she was Mormon. She'd been baptized. She hadn't gone to the temple yet. She didn't know about these undergarments. When I brought them up, she's like, that sounds crazy. And Kathleen's lying. And I'm like, girl, this lady grew up in this place. Like, she did all the things. So, I mean, there's so much. There are podcasts that are seasons and seasons long just talking about Mormonism.
It is a very in-depth. There is no way I can touch on even a tiny little scratch of it.
Right.
Here. It is so involved and so in-depth. But, yeah.
Okay, that's so I have to know when Mitt Romney was running for president, what was the overall feel of the Mormon church at that time?
Oh, they were so excited. They were going to crack their pants.
So
they
did
were
Mitt
so
Romney
excited.
wear the underwear, you think?
Of course he did. Yes.
Everyone has
Mitt
been.
Romney, his family goes back to the beginning. That's like saying he's descended from George Washington in a political sense. Like, the Romney family is like Mormon royalty. He absolutely wore the underwear.
You have to be able to sell his underwear for a premium.
Oh,
on the black market.
No, those things are held close.
They're not allowed to touch the ground. There's a lot of rules.
Again, some people think that and some people don't.
Okay.
Some people say they have to be worn underneath, like if you're working out, you have to wear them underneath. Some people say no, you don't have to. Some people say, again, the rules don't make sense. They aren't really consistent. Some people have some have others. It doesn't really make it easy to follow. And it definitely leads to a lot of feelings of I'm never getting this right because my friend over there says this and she was taught that at the temple and I was taught something else at the temple. Which one of us is wrong? Maybe we both are and I need to repent somewhere.
I mean, as far as religions go... Oh, sorry, Will, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if you had told me that we would spend so much time talking about underwear on this podcast, I probably would have thought you're crazy. But I wanted to switch gears for a second and talk about your faith, Aubrie, and just ask you, like, why the heck are you still a Christian, given kind of all the craziness we've seen within Christian, I don't know, Christian world,
crazy Christians.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, why the heck am I still a Christian? It's actually a funny thing that you asked that. I ask myself that literally every day. And it's actually boils down to the relationship that I have with God and that literal, like, deep-seated faith that I have within me, and that relationship that has been growing within me through my childhood to adulthood. And both, like, it's ever evolving, and I'm currently in a state of having a really hard time in Christianity, and because of my huge, like, love for the LGBTQ plus community right now, I'm kind of in a scrutiny situation at my current church that is like becoming a problem. And without that could be a long story, so I'll just cut it short with it boils down to the relationship I have with God, and that is never changing, and it is strong, and I hold on to that so, like, precious. It's precious to me. And I want people that want that to be able to be a part of it. And so, yeah, I'm calling myself a Christian, but I'm not like everybody else is Christian. Like, I don't know. I'm different.
So, yeah, that makes sense. I was thinking about the underwear. I still can't get my mind off the underwear. And I definitely want to jump into this. I responded to your thoughts, Aubrie, but I was thinking about, like, as far as religions go, religions require all sorts of weird stuff. All sorts of different religions require all sorts of, like, it's not somehow strange in terms of history of religion that there be some kind of garment that was required for people to wear.
It's completely. It is fairly well, and even outside of Mormonism, when I did leave the church and I embraced the path that I have chosen of being an atheist, I now have no restrictions over my clothing. I can wear whatever, I mean, within reason, but I can wear whatever I want. And I have still noticed quite a bit of Christians who are upset with me because of my outfits. Because even though they're not Mormon, there is still quite a bit of clothing choices matters in regards to Christianity.
Oh, so, yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting how a lot of that dogma followed me when I left the religion, and now I'm still living within that dogma, even though I'm not part of the religion anymore, or any religion, but I still have quite a bit that I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you have everything that you grew up with, and then not only to mention in your own mind, right, and your own heart of everything that was kind of drilled into you as a kid, and now you have to remember, is this my faith? Is this someone else? And obviously, when you came to really examine it, you decided on something else. Which is interesting because, you do have to have an adult experience with God, I think. And when it's just our kids, and when it's just the kids' experience, the experience we had as children, there's an immaturity to it. There's a sweetness to it, I think, an innocence to it, but there's also an immaturity and that doesn't really, a naivety that doesn't, naivete? I don't know. I feel weird when I say naivete, so I like saying naivety, but that sounds weird too. But I just think it's so fascinating. And so Aubrie, one thing that's stuck out to me, you talked about your relationship with God, which is super cool. I agree with that. But dig into that a little bit more. So, like, how is that, like, when you've seen other Christians and you've seen them go, like, off the rails or whatever, do you think they have a relationship with God? Do you think they don't? I mean, obviously you can't judge someone's soul, but, like, what's going on there? Are you just like, because it seems like that's the core of your faith, this sense of relationship. And then also, what do you do with like, how do you interact with the Bible, and how does that play a role in your relationship with God when you're going back and forth in this crazy life?
So, great questions. As far as when I see somebody that says that this is what God's told me to do, I can't argue against it unless it's really, like, obviously not the case. Because there are, like, cults that have been started because people believe God told them something.
Mormonism. Just kidding.
And I don't support bad, like, theology. And if you brought up a situation in the Bible about these people that went and stole women, girls, to make their wives, and these people did not have the choice. That's problematic in the Bible. And how do I reconcile with like saying this is the book that I'm going from and I'm like, this is my everything? I'm having a hard time with that, and I struggle with that daily, and I'm still growing in how I feel about it, and that's ever evolving. And right now I'm not a huge fan of everything in the Bible, and I'm a huge fan of a lot of things. I'm a huge fan of like all Jesus like stuff. Like, of course, I'm like the feel good person in the room. Like, I'm like, let's have a good time and not like sweat the heavy stuff. So, like, if I have someone sitting in front of me that says that I believe being gay is a sin, I can't, and that God told me this, and this is what I believe, and me and God believe this together. I respect it. It's their journey, and I can't tell them they're wrong. I can tell them that it's different for me, and I would ask for the same respect. And usually, people are able to do that, and it depends on how heavy the subject is. But I think when you yourself give respect to somebody and don't say you're crazy, if it's within reason, like I can tell somebody that they're not crazy for thinking that being gay is a sin. But I can also say, I disagree, but I respect what you believe. I'm not going to carry that with me. You get to carry that, and that's your thing. And when you do that, people respond nice most of the time. What was your other questions? I know you had 3.
Oh no, it's okay. I was just saying, like, what you basically answered them. What's your relationship with the Bible is basically, like, how have you been handling that? And you answered that well. That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm sort of right there with you, Aubrie, when people talk, theology to me, and try to use Bible verses, and like I'm not a huge theological minded person, kind of just the whole premise of our podcast. I'm the politics guy and Josh is the faithful guy. Like, Josh knows nothing about politics and I know really nothing about theology. So when we have different guests on, we're always, one of us is learning probably more so than the other. But when somebody comes to me with the whole, the Bible says being gay is a sin, my general response to people that say that is like, why is that the sin that you're focused on? Because
come on, man.
When you have bangs and you wear mixed fibers and you eat shellfish and you weren't selling your children into slavery, and there's a whole list of things in the Bible that we could implement that would create chaos, but we're not, because they don't make sense. So why is
exactly and by approaching it that way, it almost removes kind of theology out of it and just focuses on them, would this be an issue if Fox News didn't exist? Like would that be the sin you would focus on, or would it be, why aren't we doing more for the immigrants, for the children, for the whatever, like the things that the Bible, that I think actually preaches on or teaches us to focus on. So but I'm curious to get from both of you, and we could start with you, Kathleen, is how does your faith or lack thereof color or inform your political views?
I feel like it's an interesting kind of, in my past, obviously, as a Mormon. Mormons tend to be very conservative, both in their daily life and politically. Even then, though, I never fit into that aspect of Mormonism. I was always a little too empathetic, I guess, towards other people who were not Mormon, to condemn people, which is a lot of the things that happens in that faith. I remember being maybe in 5th or 6th grade, and I think part of that growing up outside of Utah helped. But being in, young, 12 years old maybe, and learning about what abortion was for the first time, and having somebody, I believe a religious person, telling me, oh, it's bad and evil and they're blah, 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 going off of the conservative views of the topic. And I remember thinking, that doesn't sound right to me.
Oh, wow, as a kid?
Yeah, and I was like, I'm going to have to think about that one when I get a little older. And that did happen a lot throughout my childhood and throughout my youth years of, things happening at church or at home or in my community, and me being like, I feel like I'm going to have to ruminate on this one as I get older. And so as I did get older and got married and became an adult and had children of my own, and I started kind of looking around at not only my own beliefs politically and that sort of thing, but and how they tied into my faith, because they do tie in a lot in Mormonism. Everything is interwoven through a Mormon lens. And so that is one of the big things that led us out of, my husband and I, out of the Mormon church, was their politics. The way that the church has historically and does still handle disenfranchised peoples, the way that they've ostracized and harmed Native peoples, indigenous peoples, the queer communities, women, people of color, all over the board. If you are not a middle-class white octogenarian man, you are not going to fit well in Mormonism. And I was living that as a woman, and I looked at my 3 daughters and I said, they're gonna live this too, and it's not changing, and I don't have time to change it myself from the inside, so I'm just not gonna. And so excuse me. And so that is a big part of what led me out, was the fact that I couldn't justify my faith with what I felt was right.
Yeah, that is pretty commendable, actually. That you felt like you had to, see what was going on in your faith. It's like, I don't feel this is right, but I'm being told it is, and I can't. And ultimately, I think all of us, we just follow our conscience at the end, I think. Normally. And I wanted to circle back to the Bible because, I'm the resident faithful guy and the pastor. So I gotta talk about the Bible.
Hey, Josh, hold on for 1 second. Cause I do want to give Aubrie an opportunity to explain how her faith,
yeah, go ahead.
It's a quick one. I believe in church, separation of church and state. I'm not conservative at all. And I believe that my faith in God supports that. And if I see somebody disenfranchised, I believe so did Jesus, and look what he did. So let's go from there. But I don't take old scriptures and say, oh, we can't let women do what they want with their bodies. For me, if something ever happened to me and I was impregnated and by someone else and it wasn't my husband and it was like an assault situation, I probably would never get an abortion, but I don't think I should be allowed to tell another person they cannot. That has that situation. It's not fair. It's just like, if some reason you men were going through something and we were telling you how to deal with your situation, I don't have those parts. I can't tell you how to deal with them. So I would like the same respect. That's just, it's like, and it just goes on and on and on. So yeah.
That's we could have a whole podcast episode on just that topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I wanted to take just a circle around to the Bible just again for a minute, because I had this thought as you guys were talking. And one of the things that I think happens is that I think most of our issues, like modern issues, are not with the Bible. They're with the way that people have used it and the way that people have interpreted it. So what I mean is Leviticus, the law, that was written many thousands of years ago, and it was written not to us. So anyone who would go and say, hey, here's this law about, whatever it is, not mixing seeds, not mixing, fabrics, not any number of things that had to do with, pagan practices and all sorts of things of the day, right? And if anyone were to say, oh yeah, we had to start doing that. We can't, I got to stop wearing these shirts because they're polyester or whatever, and they're mixed or whatever it is. I think that's a mistake of saying that, this was written to me as opposed to written for me. And I think that Paul says things like these were written for our instruction. And I think that one thing that happens with the Bible is it's misused for sure, has been abused, is extremely powerful, and it's been used for evil and good. And why God has let that happen, I don't really have an answer for that. I haven't thought about that too much, actually. But I just feel like with the Bible, we get to this, like we can make a lot of mistakes when it comes to the Bible, and we can cast aspersions and judgment on the Bible. I'm not saying that's what you guys were doing. I'm saying we can cast aspersions and judgment on the Bible, and I've seen it happen many times. Well, you certainly can if you want, Kathleen, but one of the things, it's like, it always has to be taken in context, understood, like oversimplifications, which if someone were to say it's an abomination and God hates gay people because of this verse in Leviticus, that's an extreme oversimplification of that passage. And I think that when we apply some critical thinking, when we come to the Bible and we approach it with the tools that have been developed, with people that have developed these tools over thousands of years and hundreds of years, really, in particular, last few hundred, it's good to like use those and be able to like approach the Bible in a way that's much more grounded in reality and grounded in the way that the world works. And I think that it's really important to do that, because we should never just read something in the Bible personally. I don't think we should ever just read something and whatever the surface text says, we just take that for what it is. Oh, that's what my first thought of what that means. Oh, that's what it is. And we have talked about this so much at our church about how to understand the Bible in context. And I think that the Bible gets a really bad rap because of course, how people have used it. And we can't separate the Bible from how people use it. Yeah. So it's totally there. Did you guys have any response to that? I'll let you respond.
I think it's interesting for sure. Like, it's written to me, not, or what did you say, for me, not to me. And I had to really think on that one. And I think that if we had preachers preaching that way and saying, hey, this is a thing that, so the book of Leviticus was written for the Levites to follow these rules. This wasn't written for the Americans in 2023. And this, like, you guys have to be, like, I had to do research. I just started doing the research the past 3 years. And so it's easy to just listen to a pastor preach and take it for what it is. It's also, I think, our duty as Christians to dive into the Bible appropriately with context as to why it was written. And like, so we're given this book and said, this is the word and this is like what you have to go by. But I think that some of these preachers that are out there, they're not educated on it. They're appointed pastoral positions and they're not educated on it. And then they get this power and preach to their congregation, and then detrimental things happen, and it's awful and it sucks. And like, that's where I'm sitting here with Christianity and being like, I have family members that used to not be able to get married. Like, thanks Obama, by the way. So,
yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, I don't know. I think the Bible's messy and can be messy if put in the wrong hands. It can get even worse. It's life altering when you learn properly, and it's life altering when you don't. And we need to, as Christians, be educated properly on this. So that's where I'm at with it. It used to be I could just be a lazy Christian and and thankfully I had a great pastor who wasn't using the Bible in a bad way. But when you have the ones that aren't using it properly, it's scary. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I would agree. It's again, everything coming on my end is coming through a Mormonism lens, which is a little different, but same thing, that the scripture that's coming forth, it even if it is spoken by the word of God for the people, even if it is revelation and godly and true and all of those things, which I'm not convinced it is, of course, because I'm an atheist, but but even if it is, and people are going to live their lives by it, we have to do it in a way that makes sense in the Bible, it doesn't talk about how to navigate social media because that didn't exist when it was written. And it doesn't talk about how, the things that you and I face on a daily basis. Some of those things are not in the Bible because the world has changed so immensely since whoever wrote it down whenever, a million years ago. And so, we have to update our thinking along with the world we live in. And that sometimes means we have to take retake a look at things and say, okay, this isn't working for us anymore. Sort of like how we've done with the Constitution. That's the whole point. Oh, jeez.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Is that an Amber Alert?
Amber Alert.
I have mine turned off. I'm sorry.
Amber Alert.
Sorry, Jesus.
It's okay. That's our first on-air Amber
You're part
Alert,
of history.
I think.
You're part of history,
in
Kathleen.
Oklahoma.
Good job.
Yeah.
Did you guys get one?
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
No.
it's in Oklahoma.
It's here.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Well, so I'm curious if maybe you guys can talk a little bit about the dynamic between you two because,
Sure.
um,
It's fun. That's amazing.
yeah. Well, I was more interested in what kinds of comments, perceptions people have about this because. On one end, folks kind of in the Christian circle are probably praising Aubrie. Oh, you're friends with an atheist. Oh, yeah. Over time,
you'll be surprised.
You'll eventually convert her, and then folks like on your end are like, yeah, Kathleen, you need to like get some sense into that Aubrie because she believes in unicorns and all kinds of other stuff. So
unicorns are real.
they are, yeah, they really are. So yeah, maybe you guys can just talk a little bit about that and maybe pressures that you are getting or just conversations people are having about your guys' relationship.
So I'll jump in and just talk on this because it's actually really funny. We were expecting a lot of crap talk on her end, people get it coming for her hard.
We live in the Bible Belt. Yes. We live in a small town, Christian town. There's a church on every corner. Yeah. I am not the norm here. We are not in San Francisco. This is a very much Christian community.
Red state. Yes. Every time it's rough. It's rough in these streets. And so, anyways, we were expecting her, and it didn't turn out that way. I did, when I first announced that I was doing this as the Christian, I remember one of the pastors being like, oh, this is going to be such a great way for you to evangelize and maybe help her to come to the Lord. Absolutely, but I'm not there. I'm so sorry to the Christians who want me to do that, and I respect the want there. I'm not evangelizing, Kathleen, because that's for Jesus and God to deal with and the Holy Spirit. I'm just me. I just want to be friends with people that are great, and so far it's been great. And this has been a very long relationship. Yeah. I don't see it changing. I don't see her going to the Lord. No. I know God's big, and whatever God wants to do, God can do. But I'm not here to evangelize with her. And she is the same. It was kind of funny when we first started the podcast and we were doing an episode. I was like, I'm trying not to sound like I'm trying to convert you, Kathleen. Mm-hmm. And then she was doing something. She's like, I'm trying so hard not to try to convert you, Aubrie. And I'm like, I think we're both so solid in this that neither one of us are going to budge on our stance on this, but we can absolutely love and adore. I love and adore that she's an atheist and she's living her best life. And she does not try to change anything about what I've got going on.
The last thing I want to do is to change a good thing. And if Christianity is a good thing for her, then keep it. Do it. That's wonderful.
It's so it's mutual respect goes such a long way, and she has pastored me in my face so many times, and it
was an accident. I know.
Good on you.
I'm so serious when I say that. I have gone through a lot in the past 2 years, and she has helped me with my faith. And how crazy, right? Anyways, but what was been really hilarious to us is I am the marketer, or I advertise everywhere.
She's our social media guru.
And so when I'm putting it out there, I'm obviously saying I'm the Christian and I'm the atheist co-host. And they're like, how dare you allow this platform to be created? And you're doing the devil's work. And I literally sit there and I'm like... It's like, this is hilarious. It's so fun. I actually was like, I'm sensitive. Some things do get to me, but this stuff cracks me up. I'm like, God, you see this? You see what your children are saying to me?
Yes, dude, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, I was very surprised that the amount of haters were all coming for Aubrie. No one even blinks at me. They all go like, she's past our judgment, whatever. Don't mess with her. Aubrie, though, it's bad. You're Christianing wrong in Jesus' death.
Yeah,
it is.
So sad.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I might be.
Well,
sorry.
I was thinking about this because, when Will and I first started this, we didn't know how it was going to go, and we didn't know how we were going to interact. Like basically our friendship kind of grew with this podcast in some ways. And Will is a part of my church, but he's a friend, even more than that. And, I've been thinking about this because, one of the things that we've said, and both of you guys have said this, and I would have said the same exact thing, like about Will. If someone was like, well, are you just trying to convert him to conservative politics? No one really said that, but the idea is like, yeah, you just got to make sure that he knows he's wrong about abortion, about gay marriage, about any number of things, right? And then the worry about, well, you're going to get, led astray. But here's my question, like, don't we, because we're saying we like, I heard Aubrie, you said we're so strong in this that neither of us are going to budge. And I totally get that. Number one, that's kind of part of the shtick, right? If the atheist becomes a Christian, then what do you do? It's Christian and Christian and atheist.
Oh, we're going to have to rename
atheist
the
and
show.
atheist. I don't know that. Pre-Christian or former Christian and atheist, whatever.
Merch. We can't redo it.
But what I'm trying to say though is that don't all of us in relationship, don't we want to be able to be influenced by the other person and even be open to be changed in our most deeply held convictions in some way? Like if abortion is truly okay before God, or if gay marriage is truly okay before God, I don't want to be stuck fighting against something that he doesn't want me to fight against, something that he's approved of or whatever. And yet I haven't heard an argument from scripture and reason and everything that has convinced me. That doesn't mean I can't be convinced. And I think that one thing that I've seen a lot in Christians and non-Christian circles is this entrenchment that we won't budge when someone else, and I think we should personally, and I'm not saying that you were trying to, like, I'm analyzing your statement way more than you probably thought about it when you're saying it. So I'm not like, this isn't like trying to make a judgment on that. But I just am, it got my mind thinking, because I want to be able to convince Will that I'm right. But I also want him to be able to convince me that he's right. And I don't want to take that away from him, and I don't want him to take that away from me. And if I automatically say, Will, you will never, ever, ever convince me that abortion is okay, then at that point, the conversation is now ceased. Because doesn't it feel that way? Or maybe, am I off? I'm just wondering about this because we want to be able to,
I don't know. I think
influence the other, right? Go ahead.
Maybe. I think my stance on that is I like what you're saying. I think that's interesting. I don't know that I subscribe to the thinking. I think that there's something there. But for me and Kathleen, it's making the space for different opinions and not necessarily trying to sway the other, but sitting in the space of maybe not, well, I guess it's disagreement because I disagree that God isn't real. Like, I agree he's a real thing. And she agrees that it's not a thing for her. And there's nothing there for her. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. I don't know how that works. That is an abstract belief system in my brain. But in her, like, we've created a podcast with it, and it's become so beautiful. And I think that my hope and dreams for me, myself, and like my friends and family is to have different types of friendships that not everybody agrees or believes on everything. Like you can make space and coexist. And I think that there are types of people that think if these people don't agree with me, I can't have them at my table. And there are people I cannot have at my table. I don't want to say that. Everybody's welcome. But I have to challenge myself often. Like I'm starting to challenge myself with I have a new friend who's conservative, and it is very challenging to make space for some of their belief systems. And I remember talking to her about it and being like, I don't think I can do this. And then I'm like, but I'm in a podcast saying you need to make space for people, but not these people.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where God comes in. And that's where our belief system, like Christians believe, like God comes in and says, hey, wait a second. What about these people? You're preaching, but you're not preaching fully. And I'm like, great, cool, thanks. Here I am.
Well, and for me, it's not necessarily a thing of right and wrong. I don't think there's a right way to go through this life. I don't think Christianity is wrong just because I'm not a Christian. I also don't think Judaism or Islam or Buddhism or all these other religions that may be, I don't think they're wrong just because that's what fits their life. I don't think I'm necessarily the right one of the world. I don't think atheism is the end-all, be-all answer. For me, it is. But for other people, it may not be. And so I'm not going to try and change people into my way of thinking when my way of thinking has come through almost 40 years of life and living the way that I have and the experiences that I've lived and learning and growing in the life that I have. And so for me, atheism is the answer for my own personal life, but that's just for me. And so for Aubrie, that's not the answer. So I'm not going to try and convince her she's wrong because she's not. She's right in her beliefs, in her own. All I can do is trust her and support her and be here for her and love her so that if she does need help and if she does need a support system, I'm there. But my job is not to change her mind in any way or anybody else's.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I really appreciate what you guys have done. And, it's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, because I really think that, this country, this culture, this time really calls for just more people to just disagree well.
Yes.
And it sounds like you two are doing that. And I couldn't be happier for you, and definitely wish the success of your podcast.
Thank you.
To just inspire others
Absolutely.
to consider reaching out and just talk to people that, I don't know, that they don't necessarily agree with. But in the last few minutes we have, I want to play a little quick game with you all, something I normally do with some of our other folks that have podcasts that we try to talk to. And this game is called Biden, Bible, or Buffy.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Yes. So
I'm gonna
I'm
kick y'all's asses.
so I'm going to give you guys some quotes that will originate from either Biden, come from the Bible, or come from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. and
Here's the question though: are we doing King James version? Because that's gonna give it away.
No. It's going to be probably like, the Message or Passion version or something like that, to make it kind of tricky. So I will start it. This will be a competition between you two. Cause I think, Josh can see all the questions. So it wouldn't be fair. So are you guys ready?
Yeah,
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. All right, so here we are about to play Biden, Bible, or Buffy. So the first quote here is, "Love isn't brains, children, it's blood."
That's Buffy.
that's what I would say. Buffy. What the heck?
All right, good. That is correct. That was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It happened. Actually, Spike was the person that made the quote. Buffy's only main character, who remained soulless for most of the series run, had a unique perspective to offer our heroes. So our next question. Let's see, which one should I do? Oh, this is a good one. Wait, your mom's still alive? Is it?
I want to say Biden just because it sounds funny.
What do you?
Biden. Are you doing?
I'm gonna do. Yeah,
it's Biden.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
Right,
that sounds right.
All right. Okay, so let's see. Okay, here's one. Let me eat some of that red stew. I'm exhausted.
I think that's from the Bible.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree.
I know the story.
I'm gonna agree.
Dang, you guys are way too good. Okay, I'm gonna have to switch things up a little bit here.
Listen,
all right.
I've read the Bible like 5 times. You got nothing. I'm on it.
All right, so here's another quote. So we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created by the thing.
Buffy.
I think Biden. The thing. It wasn't. It's not the Bible.
It was Biden.
It's a good one.
All right, how about I may be dead, but I'm still pretty.
That one's Buffy.
Buffy.
That one's too easy for you guys. All right. Let's try another one. Let's see. All right, he said. I'll let you bake your bread over cow dung instead of human dung.
That's the Bible.
Dang it. That's that evident, huh? All right, okay. How about I promise you, the president has a big stick. I promise you.
That's Biden. No, it's not good.
All right.
He promises.
Gave him a microphone.
He promises.
All right, last question. Okay. You think you know what's to come, what you are. You haven't even begun.
Sounds like a Buffy thing.
Ooh,
I mean, it could be Bible, but I feel like it's.
I feel like it's Buffy.
All right, okay. It's Bible. All right. Well, great job. You both won. So thank you for playing our game, Biden, Bible, or Buffy. So how can people learn more about you guys? When does your podcast air? Tell us a little bit about that.
So we drop an episode every Monday. We just dropped our season finale for season 2, so we're gonna come back in September for our new episodes. But for all our new listeners that want to come check us out, you can start from the very beginning, which is Kathleen's story about leaving the Mormon church.
Yep.
And then we just go on and on and on and have a plethora of people. So you're gonna have interesting times with us.
But yeah, we're on all major podcast platforms. You can find us on social medias. Basically, look for the Christian and the Atheist, and there you are.
Podcast.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, well, that's great. Well, definitely appreciate you all coming by, chatting with us.
So
again, we really appreciate everything that you're doing. It's so important today.
Yeah.
And we will see all of our regular listeners and viewers next week. Take care.
Nice.
Bye-bye.
Bye.